we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia, but we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it too. But we're in for a lot of money and we don't want to do it anymore, and we can't. So in a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries.
It's very important for psychological reasons and actually for physical reasons as well. Psychologically, until a few weeks ago, one could be, you could assume that actually Trump was more in Putin's corner than actually in the Ukrainian corner. But in the last 2 weeks in particular, Trump has come out very forcefully. He seems to have realized that Putin has really been, playing him along, as it were. And he now realizes that Putin has no interest in peace. I think he said last night on Air Force One that he knows that Putin only just wants to take the whole of Ukraine, has no interest in anything less than that. So he's been very bellicose, anti-Russian talk, which is good. When we then look at what we're expecting these additional weapons to be, a lot of it we understand is long-range precision guided weapons. We're hearing people are talking for the States. These are sort of weapons that can strike Moscow, so over 400 sort of miles from the border. We understand they're to allow the Ukrainians to strike drone factory production and ammunition sites and others. So psychologically, it's really important, but actually physically as well, having these weapons really putting the pressure on Russia. And I think bringing the war home to people in Russia, because a lot of people in Russia, the war doesn't touch them at all. And one would have thought the Russians taking so many casualties, people would complain a little bit more about it, but they haven't. The other element to this we understand is that there will be more Patriot missiles. These are the air defense missiles, and more other air defense missiles as well. So really welcome. And there is a bit of momentum behind support to Ukraine, I think, now. And the fact that Donald Trump has now decided that, which side to get on, as it were, could make a huge difference.
This is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you had taken a decision. And the decision is that you want Ukraine what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you do want the Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the tremendous success of the NATO summit. The 5%, but also the decision to keep Ukraine strong and the decision to increase our defense industrial production. So based on that, that was Europe stepping up. This is again Europeans stepping up. So I've been in contact with many countries. I can tell you that at this moment, Germany massively, but also Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Canada, they all want to be part of this. And this is only the first wave. There will be more. So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will put on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today and hear you speaking about what you were planning to do in 50 days and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin. But when I'm Ukraine, I think this is really great news for that. So I really want to thank you for that. And that means the Europeans paying for it. And again, I mentioned all these countries, we will deal with that. And exactly as you said, it might also mean that countries will move equipment fast into Ukraine, and then the US later backfilling it, because speed is of the essence here. So really, thank you. This is important.
You did a great job. That's a really great job.
Again, it's psychological and physical. Certainly having these long-range missiles, taking out drone production factories is very important, because as you know, up to 1,000 drones and missiles being fired at Ukraine every day at the moment, and that is having a really profound effect. I think also psychologically, now that people in Moscow realize that they are potentially can be targets, and when you also add it in to what the Americans did in Iran last month, by bombing sites that were supposed to be impregnable, it's shown that actually American missile technology and drone technology is probably rather superior to Russian air defense systems. So, the metric is very changed. I cannot imagine that the Americans will allow the Ukrainians to say, put a cruise missile through the roof of the Kremlin, but attacks into Moscow or other major cities could have a profound effect on public opinion, which is what I think people are hoping. If the Russian people realize what is being done in their name, they might well decide that actually enough is enough. So I think that's a real element to it, both physical and psychological. And we understand that Ukraine is going to get enough of these weapons. These are not onesies and twosies, as it were. This is $4 billion worth. So it could be pretty significant. And let's hope that that stuff is on its way now rather than arriving in a few weeks or months' time.
But there's an old analogy. It's always better to shoot the archer rather than to catch the arrow. And therefore, that is what the Ukrainians want to try and do. Now, they've got an increasing capability themselves. They're attacking the Russian defense industrial base. They're attacking logistics sites where drones are stored and everything else. But they need much more capability. And of course, if they can disrupt logistics by, say, attacking the Kerch Bridge, and stopping the resupply into Crimea, occupied Crimea, that will impact Russian logistics and therefore their ability to continue to prosecute these increasingly large drone and rocket attacks on a nightly basis. And then that's the best way for the Ukrainians to stop it.